מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. בנות אשר ירביצני ימי מנוחות ינחלני, נפשי שובב. ינחני במגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלך בגצל מוות, לא ירא רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדיפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. On these more difficult and painful days, these sad moments in our life, we often turn to the psalmist in search of comfort and strength. And so I ask you now at this time to recite these beautiful words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we remember Betty Marcus Sunshine. To her children, Nancy, Patty, and Richard, also to Alan and Jane, to her grandchildren, Emily, Jacqueline, Andrew, Katie, Eliza, and Esty, and also to Jeremy, Kelly, and Aaron, to her sister-in-law, Sally, to the members of the Sunshine family, to Mark, Alan, Anne, and all of their children. And today we also lovingly remember her son-in-law, David, who was more like a son. To all the members of the family and so many dear and cherished friends, we've come together today to remember, but also to celebrate the life of your beloved Betty. Our sages in their wisdom have taught that birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Betty's journey of 91 years began in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was born in 1926 to Harry and Essie Rosenfeld and was the youngest of 3 children. Betty, along with her brother Sylvan and her sister Mildred, both of blessed memory, grew up in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. Betty's siblings, her parents, and also an aunt and uncle all lived together under one roof in this home, a home that was filled with joy and music and laughter and dancing. So much dancing that Betty's children told me the stories they would hear, that the floor in the living room gave way so much they had to go into the basement to build a new support because of all the dancing. And Betty and her siblings were very close. Betty and Sylvan shared a friendship that was special throughout the years, and Betty and her sister Mildred, they were sisters, but they were each other's best friend. Betty's parents were hardworking people. Her mother Essie was a homemaker, and her father Harry owned and operated an Army-Navy clothing store. Betty's childhood and teen years were happy ones. She was gifted with a beautiful voice, and as a trained singer, she proudly sang at her sister Mildred's wedding. She attended Taylor Alderdice High School, where she enjoyed a circle of wonderful friends, and many of these friends grew to be Betty's lifelong friends. Following her high school graduation, Betty matriculated to the University of Pittsburgh, where she pursued a degree in education. Now, it was sometime toward the end of her college career, we're not sure if it was her 3rd or 4th year at the University of Pitt, but while she was at this stage of her life, one day she decided to go to the apartment building where her grandparents lived, just for a little visit. Around this same time, a young man who also had parents living in this apartment building had just returned home from serving our country in World War II. His name, E. Robert Marcus, also known as Bob. Bob Marcus's parents happened to be friends with Betty Rosenfeld's parents. They all played cards together, and occasionally these two sets of parents would discuss the idea of fixing up their children. But always the parents decided better not interfere. So there was this one day that Betty was visiting her grandparents, and Bob decided to visit his parents. And these two young people happened onto the same elevator. As they rode the elevator, Bob did not hesitate to introduce himself and to ask the lovely Betty out on a date. And so that first date happened, and towards the end of this evening, an evening which some of the family believe may have been Bob's fraternity formal, Bob looked at Betty at the end of this first date and he said to her, "I'm going to marry you one day." And Betty thought he was crazy. But 18 months later, following her graduation from college, Betty and Bob married in Pittsburgh. We have many writings in our tradition, and in the writings of Pirkei Avot, the teachings of our ancestors, we have this beautiful reading, Eshet Chayil. We translate it to mean a woman of valor. It's an exquisite passage which describes in detail the virtues of a woman who exemplifies strength, kindness, and so much more. But Eshet Chayil literally translated means a woman, a soldier. A soldier. Early on, just 6 weeks following their wedding day, Betty was faced with shocking news that her mother, Essie, had died suddenly. During what should have been the happiest time for the newlyweds, Betty, girding herself with strength, faced this tragedy with the tears of a loving daughter and the bravery of a soldier. This theme of love, strength, and bravery proves to be the threads that weave through Betty's entire life. She was a silver lining, glass is half full kind of woman who always was strong in the most difficult moments, and who always knew that tomorrow would bring a better day, a more joyous day. Betty was an optimist. Bob and Betty were a love match, and their love was matched only by the respect that they had for each other. Together they enjoyed a wonderful group of friends. Saturday night was always date night, dining out and enjoying the company and laughter of those dear friends. And together they traveled the world, visiting Mexico, Japan, Italy, Greece, Israel, and to so many parts of the Caribbean. Together they challenged each other with deep conversations on politics and current events, sometimes agreeing on the topic, but not always. Also in this reading, Eshet Chayil, we have the opening verses that state, "A woman of valor who can find, her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and nothing shall he lack. She renders him good and not evil all the days of her life." Well, in being married to Betty, Bob lacked nothing. Their life and their hearts were full. And when Nancy and Patty and then Richard entered into their world, Betty and Bob's souls were overflowing with joy, and the Marcus family portrait was complete. In 1955, when Richard was just an infant, the family moved to Cleveland as Bob joined forces with his brother-in-law, Mel, in a business venture. And the Marcuses made their home on Toland Road in Shaker Heights. And just like the home that Betty herself had grown up, the Marcus home was one that was filled with love, laughter, with tradition and education and compassion. Rich, Patty, and Nancy, what a mom. What a role model. Once the three of you were all in school full time, your mom went back to teaching. She was a substitute teacher in the Shaker Heights elementary schools, and you also knew a mom who was not only a teacher, but who was a student, a real learner, a lifelong learner. She went back to school herself, and attending Kent State University, your mom earned her master's degree in guidance and counseling. She offered career development to students in the Cleveland Heights schools, and she also worked at the Cleveland Center for Economic Education at John Carroll University. May 8th, 1984. This is a date that you could never, ever forget. Your dad and your Uncle Mel were together when the small plane that they were flying crashed, ending their lives, and of course forever changing yours. Your mom, the Eshet Chayil, the soldier, she mourned and she grieved. And somehow this woman who always considered her to be that person in the background, your mom grew stronger and she stepped forward to lead you, her children, and her entire family. As Betty and her sister Mildred mourned the losses of their husbands together, their unbreakable bond grew even stronger. Together, Betty and Mildred persevered. Now, Betty and Bob's children knew their Aunt Mildred simply as Auntie. And Betty's 6 beautiful grandchildren, when they entered into the world, they gave their grandmother the endearing name of Gram. When your auntie died, your mom stepped up and she became the Gram and the Gigi, the great Gram, to Auntie's grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Betty was there for everyone's birthday celebrations, any kind of celebration. And while she had so much love and adored all of her nieces and her nephews and the great nieces and great nephews that she was blessed to have, she adored all of them. But she took the responsibility with her sister's passing to step up even just a little more, caring for and showing extra love to Stan and Barbara and Elise and their children. Is as if she wanted to fulfill what her sister had started. Richard, you shared with me that her focus was always family. And Richard, when it came to your mom and her family, her focus went in two directions. She appreciated her generations. You said that she was always mindful of where she came from. But she also treasured you and your sisters and the grandchildren and the extended family because she saw all of you as the promise of tomorrow. And Richard, you remember a mom who had family at the forefront, but a mother who understood the importance of education. This was almost as important to her. Family and education. She instilled these ideals in you, in Patty, in Nancy, and in her grandchildren. More than her degree from the University of Pittsburgh, and more than her master's degree from Kent State, Richard, you shared with me that it was her love of learning, her desire to understand her community and the world. That's what really impressed you, her constant desire to learn. Even up until her last days, you told me that your mom was enrolled in a class at Tri-C that explored the Supreme Court. And Richard, you noted for a woman who, for some reason, always seemed to think that she operated in the background or behind the scenes, you and your sisters, you clearly saw a mom who so much was in the forefront of life. You shared that she was totally engaged in everything, politics, technology. She got such a kick out of her computer and emailing and Sirius radio. And simply said, Richard, you told me she embraced tomorrow. Patty, you said to me that she saw the world with great clarity. You said that she made each of you feel special and appreciated for who you were, for your uniqueness. And when your mom saw a problem or an issue, you said that she had the ability to address the issue simply and right to the point. And when she spoke to you, or to anyone for that matter, she spoke directly to you. You deeply admired your mom's dedication to the family, the whole family. And even with her health challenges, all the health issues that she faced, you said she was always the rock of the family. Patty, when your beloved David died, she was there. Your mom was present. And she, even though she too was grieving, of course, she demonstrated to you and to your children and to all who surrounded you, she demonstrated her superhuman strength in being there for you. Nancy, you said, my mom was my model. You explained to me that she showed you how to be a mother, and she showed you how to be strong. You said that she always had good advice, and that she made your path easy. She made it easier by teaching you what was right and what was not. And you also said that she was there, she was the one to help you navigate through what we'll call the gray areas of life. You described her as grounded and wise. And you said, Nancy, that she was a comfort to you and that you always knew that she would be there for you. You said that there were so many good times that you enjoyed together, of course, as the whole family, but also one-on-one with your mom. And you said there were many fun times, and the ones especially in the more recent years, you described those moments as a luxury. And you said that you just feel so blessed. Her son-in-law, Alan, said of his mother-in-law that Betty was inclusive, and her daughter-in-law Jane echo Alan's feelings as well, inclusive in such a way that she didn't like the word or the term in-law. She dropped that. If you were in the family, you were in the family. Alan, you also remarked how she had no favorites, except for Andrew, of course. Andrew told me that, of course. Alan and Jane both told me that she had this easy way of making you and everyone feel included. And in sitting with her grandchildren, I was struck by the gratitude they showed for Graham's special and welcoming ways. Phrases like, "She made each of us feel like her favorite," and "We love how she made Kelly, Jeremy, and Aaron know that they were family too." In life, some of us are lucky to have found loved ones, one very special person who fills our heart. In life, in Betty's life, she was lucky in love twice. Sal Sunshine was a prince. He was perhaps one of the kindest guys I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Betty thought he was pretty special too. With the great love and partnership that Betty shared with her beloved Bob for so many years, it seemed impossible that she could ever, or would ever, love again. But then she met Sal. They married in 1992 and remained together for 14 years until his passing in 2006. In Sal, Betty saw his qualities, his sweetness, his values, and his decency, and she just bursted with joy in the way that Sal showed his love to her children, especially to Emily, Jacqueline, to Andrew and Katie, Eliza and Esty. And Betty adored Sal's beautiful family, his children, Mark and Alan, and also Anne, and how Betty felt about Sal's grandchildren, Jamie and Aaron and Robert and Nicole. Betty's heart was big enough for more love, and she sincerely loved the Sunshine family members. Today we remember a woman, a true lady, who was kind and loving and generous and really just so much fun. We remember Betty and the ways that she gave to all of us and to her community as well. We remember her acts of charity, her volunteer work in Hillcrest Hospital's maternity ward. We remember her love of her favorite sports teams. She was a huge sports fan, and she herself loved to play softball and tennis and golf. Today we remember a woman who, even when she was supposed to be the center of attention, she turned the focus on all of you. For example, her 90th birthday party, she gave everyone there a heart-shaped box, and each heart had 3 words on it, 3 adjectives or qualities or attributes that Betty saw in each person who was there. Today we know that she is at peace, and we too can be at peace knowing that a day never went by without Betty Marcus Sunshine feeling grateful and blessed for her life and for all of you, for everyone who was a part of her life. As the words of Eshet Chayil come to a close, we hear the phrase, "Her children rise up and call her blessed." At this time, I'm reminded of our teaching that words which come from the heart go directly to the heart. And so I call upon now her 6 grandchildren who will call their Graham blessed.
Six of us grandchildren were fortunate enough to be born into this family. Growing up, we didn't all understand how lucky we truly were. At different ages, we all separately got to a point of realization that this family was different, that not all families considered cousins to be siblings, that not all families celebrated Thanksgiving for a week with 50 of our closest family members, that not all families were this lucky. And Graham was always the backbone of it. Betty Sunshine. There is truly not a more perfect name to go along with Graham. She brought sunshine on the cloudiest of days, whether it was the calming sound in her voice, the perfect smile on her face, or just her very presence in a room. Graham had a way of shining only positive rays all around her. To Graham, it didn't matter whatever day she had been having. She didn't radiate anything except happiness and pure love for life. She seized every opportunity, got past every obstacle. Graham wasn't just alive for 91 and a half years, but she lived each of the 2,880,490,000 seconds to the fullest. This is not simply the loss of our grandmother. This is the loss of our biggest cheerleader, the Graham who found perfection in all of our imperfections. This family is a tight-knit, vibrant group, always finding reasons to get together. But despite all of this, Graham made a point of finding time with each of us to know, love, and bond with each of us individually, and find pride in our unique accomplishments and characteristics. And among the grandchildren, this was not only true of the original 6, but equally true with the members added through marriage and love. A year and a half ago at Graham's 90th birthday celebration, she surprised us with party favors. Each person received a heart-shaped box holding pieces of paper with 3 adjectives that Graham thought described us. Today, we have 3 words to describe Graham. Graham was loving, unconditionally and boundlessly. Bright, radiating brilliance, love, and acceptance. And strong, providing us a rock and a model through everything. Graham was our core, the force that we were always drawn towards. Betty Sunshine was our sun, and we revolved around her because everything we are thankful for, she played a part in creating. It is not surprising to us at all that Graham has left behind a progeny and a legacy of smart, successful, and driven people, because that is what Graham bestowed upon us. Graham lived with the glass half full and with tomorrow in mind. Graham, we are your legacy, we are your tomorrow. Everything you accomplished and everything you overcame brought us here, and we will continue to live out your legacy and make you proud. We will continue to revolve around the sun. Thank you.
We take a moment of silence as we ask God to accept Betty's soul. As you are able, I invite you to rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, shochen במרומים, עמסנו חנוכנה תחת כנפי השכינה, במלאות קדושים וטהורים, כי זוכר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת בשה, בת הרשל ואזני, שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תמנוחתה. אנא ברחמים אסתירך, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בתררך ימת נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום, על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Betty Marcus Sunshine, who has gone now to her eternal home, may Betty's soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen. Please be seated. Friends, our service of memory will continue at the Mayfield Cemetery. Following the interment, the family will receive visitors at the Inglis residence, which is at 20980 Brantley in Shaker Heights. Visitation will be today until 8 p.m. and also tomorrow from 12 until 4. On behalf of the entire family, we thank you for your love and support on this important but sad day. you.